The word parallel has various meanings in different forms, but in media, parallel is used to identify two characters leading a strikingly similar life with slight differences that shape their distinct trajectories. We have seen this trope being used a lot, even in very old works of literature such as Hamlet and Laertes from Shakespeare's writings, or more recently in anime like Naruto, One Piece, and more. Enter My Hero Academia, a series known for using classic shonen tropes but mastering them to the T. And of course, Koei Horikoshi's attempt at creating two parallel characters just happens to be one of the best examples of this narrative technique. And today we delve into the compelling parallel dynamic between its hero Izuku Midoriya and the villain Tomura Shigaraki. The parallel journey of Deku and Shigaraki isn't simple or short at all. Matter of fact, it goes on from the start of the series to the end. So to break it down in a comprehensive manner, let's go through it according to the arcs in the story. Starting with the origin. As a kid, Deku admired All Might and dreamed of becoming a hero like him. He had All Might figurines, posters, and he played a game with his mom where he acted as All Might. Basically, he yearned to become a hero like All Might, but he was born without a quirk. And this is no Batman story. To become a hero, you need a quirk, end of story. You see him desperately trying anything to get a quirk. It almost felt like he was in denial. Despite this, Deku had a very supportive mom who always encouraged him to become a hero, but eventually they had to face reality. And even his mom almost cruelly told him to give up on his dreams. But as we know, Deku found All Might as his master and he did become a hero with One for All. On the other hand, Tenko too admired heroes and fantasized about becoming a hero himself. But Kotaro, his dad, had a strict policy of no hero talk in his household. This obviously meant Tenko could not pursue becoming a hero. Despite this, like Deku, Tenko also had a supportive mother who cared for him. We don't know yet if Tenko had an original quirk, but in a recent chapter of the manga, it was confirmed that Tenko got the decaying quirk from his master All for One. Deku got a very positive role model and master who helped him in becoming a great hero, but Tenko got the complete opposite in All for One. He does not care about Tenko or how he feels and only uses him as a vessel, a temporary vessel at that. He manipulated Tenko's hatred not just mentally but also through his quirk. Originally, the decaying quirk was like Overall's quirk. It could destroy and restore as well. But All for One took away restore and chose only to pass the power of decay. So even if Tenko wanted to do good, the only ability he has is, well, to destroy. Tenko's hatred and itching started getting worse, and All for One manipulated Tenko into thinking the only way to stop it was to destroy, to kill, truly closing Tenko in a locked corner and giving birth to Tomura Shigaraki. This arc in many ways is about finding who they actually are. Deku starts his internship under Gran Torino where he learns full cowling, but above that he learns how to be himself. He stops being an All Might replica and starts thinking in his own way. As Gran Torino says, the respect you have for All Might, that sense of responsibility, they are shackles holding you back. We see this come to fruition in a later arc when he uses his shoot style, which seems simple to us, but Deku for the first time uses his legs as the main powerhouse instead of his arms. And that could happen because in this arc he finally comes to terms with One for All being his own quirk rather than a copy passed down to him. Whereas Shigaraki, till this arc, to be blunt, was an immature brat who had control over too much power and was spoiled to hell by his master. He lacked conviction in his villainy and saw this entire thing as a game. But then he meets Stain, who in every way was superior to Shigaraki. He was stronger, he had motivations backing his actions, and he was the first villain so far who had the power to influence the public. Hell, people even started purchasing Stain merch. Bro was a full-on influencer at this point. We see this power difference literally when Shigaraki unleashes his no moves in Hosu City for no reason but to cause havoc. And parallelly, Stain also goes into battle with Deku, Ida and Todoroki in a random alleyway. Even though Shigaraki's attack was more destructive and felt bigger, still almost almost everyone only talked about Stain, because he had a reason to fight. He didn't see this as some pastime. Through this event, Shigaraki learns to practice his villainy with more conviction. We see the result of this as at the end of this arc, Shigaraki meets Deku and asks his advice on why people go behind Stain but not him. Imagine a narcissist brat like him asking advice from his enemy. That just exemplifies his growth in this arc. Also in the forest training arc, where the League invade UA's camp, rather than making a big scene out of it, they just capture Bakugo and voluntarily leave the forest. This causes a huge uproar amongst the people, and their trust in UA and the heroes slowly but surely starts to fade away. This arc probably has the most obvious parallel, as both of their masters go at each other for one final time. All Might came out of this winning but said farewell to the remaining members of One for All. All for One, on the other hand, loses everything and is sent to Tartarus. This obviously meant that both masters were out of commission and Deku and Shigaraki would have to take their place, bookending the era of All Might. In a lot of ways, this arc is about proving their worth, in a sense that both Deku and Shigaraki are met with their superior versions. Deku obviously meets Mirio, who was a contender for receiving One for All, because he is the strongest student in UA and even stronger than some pros. He mastered a stupidly difficult quirk which allowed him to pass through all matter, but it had to be very specific. For example, if Mirio activates his quirk while standing, he will just fall and go inside the ground. Even though he had such a hard quirk to master, he never whined about it and just accepted the challenge. Because of his dedication, Sir Knight, I believe that Mirio deserved One for All more than Deku, and this deeply affected Deku's confidence. Throughout the arc, Deku grapples with self-doubt, especially after blaming himself for Night Eye's death and Mirio's loss of his quirk. Even after defeating Overall, Deku couldn't shake off his guilt. It was only when Mirio provided perspective on Deku's achievements that he finally acknowledged One for All as a quirk that he deserves. Ultimately, Deku emerged from this arc with newfound confidence and embraced his role as the next wielder of One for All. Shigaraki, on the other hand, encounters Overall, the Yakuza leader of the Seiha Sakai. In many ways, Overall was a better version of Shigaraki. For example, while Shigaraki's quirk can only decay, Overall's quirk can decay and restore. Overall is the leader of a more infamous clan and is in possession of dangerous weapons like the quirk deleters. At the start of the arc, Shigaraki wanted to work with Overall, but immediately realized Overall was more interested in All for One's absence than in All Might's retirement. Shigaraki realizes Overall's true intentions are to be the next big bad. He wants to be the one to step up for the villains. This obviously is a direct challenge to Shigaraki. On top of that, right at their first encounter, Overall basically embarrasses Shigaraki, calling him out for being a useless leader who couldn't achieve anything even though he had such formidable forces. After this, Shigaraki strategizes to capitalize on the chaos of the battle between Overall and the heroes. Exploiting the heroes' victory on Overall, Shigaraki seizes control of the ambulance transporting Overall. In a calculated move, he destroys both of Overall's arms and confiscates all of his quirk erasing bullets, effectively stripping Overall of everything he had ever claimed as his own. In this arc, Shigaraki's character further progresses into a more calculative and mature antagonist. An interesting thing about this arc's parallel is that both Deku and Shigaraki emerge as the perfect successors to their masters. Meanwhile, their competition loses all their life's hard work. Mirio loses his quirk and his master, while Overall loses essentially everything. Now this next part is a little different, because the parallel remains but it happens in two different arcs. The villain hunt arc for Deku. This arc was entirely focused on Deku. He was at the lowest we have ever seen him, physically tired, mentally broken, starving, and sleep deprived. The pressure of knowing All for One is after him and he can attack Deku at any point scared Deku into running away from UA, because he didn't want others to get hurt because of his mess. We see him make harsh decisions like leaving all his friends and even ignoring All Might. He became a rogue hero who would not stop at a particular place for long and just went around capturing villains. He stopped looking himself as a human but just as a vessel whose only job is to stop All for One and any villainy around him. In the end, Class A comes to save Deku, leading to touching moments between him and Ida, Bakugo's apology, and of course Uraraka's heartfelt speech. It's the culmination of their support and everything they have done for him that reminds Deku he's not alone. They don't need Deku to save them, but they are here to help him save others. This realization brings Deku back to his usual self, stronger and more confident than ever. Cause this is the story of how he became the world's greatest hero, but also the story of how they all became the world's greatest heroes. And then My Villain Academia for Shigaraki is just insane. The character development he received in this arc is unparalleled to any character in MHA. I mean, the arc itself was such a bold decision on Hori's end. Imagine shoving away all your main heroes and only focusing on the villains for 22 weeks straight in a magazine primarily made for kids and teenagers. My Villain Academia focuses on all the villains, but more importantly, this is where Shigaraki becomes the villain of MHA. Like Deku, Shigaraki too is at his lowest in this arc. He has barely taken any rest as his master's pet Gigantomachia is hunting him, and Shigaraki's goal is to make Machia accept him as its new master. Coincidentally, this is when he also encounters Redestro's Meta Liberation Army and strategizes to lure Machia in near Redestro to defeat his huge army. This leads us to Redestro vs Shigaraki, which might just be one of the most important fights in the show as it marks a turning point for Shigaraki, propelling him into the role of the primary antagonist as the Paranormal Liberation War looms on the horizon. This fight provides deep insight into Shigaraki's mind, revealing the roots of his hatred. Delving into Shigaraki's backstory, we witness the parallels between his journey and Deku's. He too was just an innocent child wanting to be a hero, but his upbringing, tainted by betrayal and abuse, made him what he is now. We sympathize and understand Shigaraki. He is a villain born from tragedy. However, any empathy we may feel is quickly shattered by the dark reality of his actions. He annihilates his entire family. And this is where you understand that yes, what happened to him was not fair, but what he is doing now is not justified by his past. We are then pulled back in present and Shigaraki gets his quirk awakening as he destroys the entire Deika city in one go. It's a moment that holds a lot of significance, as this is where Redestro acknowledges Shigaraki as the true leader of his army. By the end of the arc, Shigaraki is now the leader of the Paranormal Liberation Front and has been accepted by Machia as his new master. Both Deku and Shigaraki were at their lowest during these arcs, but managed to come out becoming the strongest they have ever been. This is once again a very obvious and deliberate parallel created by Horikoshi. In this arc, both Deku and Shigaraki act as symbols of their own people. Deku is a symbol and hope to the bystanders, the victims, and the innocent people, whereas Shigaraki is a symbol to the wronged, the outcast, and the villains. I will not go into too much detail about this one as I know there will be many people only watching the anime. So yeah, that's about it for this video. I really enjoy the way Horikoshi uses classic anime/manga tropes in MHA, but masters them perfectly. I plan to make more videos on how Hori uses these tropes, so if you want more videos like these, tell me in the comments and maybe leave some suggestions as well. It does not have to be MHA specifically, by the way, it can be anything. Be safe, be nice, and I'll see you guys the next time. Goodbye.